Hi, knitted time travelers. It's me, Cat Dad. I'm here actually from an hour into your future saying, definitely stick with this video. I didn't expect where we were going, but I'm pretty sure we may have stumbled onto the meaning of all of it. So stick through the occult weirdo stuff that you say, that you watch and you go, oh, there's no way this is real. This is nonsense. Stick past that and get to the back half with the interviews and stay around. And then let's discuss, because the elites are cooked. They're done. We got this. Okay, watch. Please watch. This is an important one. Bye. Hi, my little knit witches of the occult and the esoteric. It's me, Papa Anus. How are you? Hey, what if our intelligence services had a time machine, or at least had a little box that they could get in and look into the past or the future? What if they did? What if they thought that none of us had free will? What if? Anyway, now that we know that the CIA and the FBI and everyone has just done all these weird esoteric, like occult things forever, maybe we should start paying attention to some of those things, like Project Looking Glass. And as soon as I find something that's like impossible to Google, you know I'm interested, okay? So what if we all just put our little, that doesn't happen in this reality hats, put them all to the side, and we all just thought, what if anything was possible? And then we saw where we went. What if? Let's take a look at Project Looking Glass, okay?
In early 1948, the curator for the National Museum of Iraq had a very exciting meeting. Two American archaeologists walked into his office with a briefcase.
1948? What year was, what else happened in 1948? I wonder if that is around the time of like the Nakba or something.
And set it gently on his desk next to a dusty cardboard box. The three men exchanged polite greetings and shook hands. One of the Americans dialed a code on the case, popped the locks, and opened it. It was full of cash. Stacks of $100 bills, United States legal tender. Very, very nice. The curator removed the lid of what looked like an old, unmarked shoebox. Inside, there were two ancient Sumerian cylinder seals. The Americans were willing to pay handsomely for these. The curator wasn't even sure why. A cylinder seal is nothing more than a tube made of stone or metal engraved with a design. They were used by everybody in Sumer. It was basically a stamp. You rolled the cylinder over a document or a piece of leather. The engraving on the cylinder imprinted its design, which served as a personal signature on a document or package. It was a way for a Sumerian to guarantee authenticity of a business deal, like signing a...
Okay, so this is all hokum, right? This is all phooey. This is all BS, right? These weird little tablets that you roll on clay. A bunch of dudes from the U.S. military came and they were like, hey, give us your tablets. Sure. Keep going.
Contract. Cylinder seals were made of wood, stone, bronze, really whatever the owner could afford. These specific cylinders were made of gold, but the curator was being paid much more than their weight in gold, many times more. The curator offered to show the American archaeologists more seals, hoping for another sale. There were hundreds of them in the museum. He could make a fortune. But the Americans were only interested in these two cylinders. The curator didn't know how the Americans even knew they existed. They weren't on display in the museum at all. They'd been sitting, boxed on a dusty shelf for years. But there was so much cash in that briefcase, the curator wasn't going to ask questions. He was now a rich man. No reason to press his luck. The box and briefcase were closed, the men again shook hands, and the deal was done.
So far, this all sounds like something that our intelligence service would do, correct?
An hour later, the archaeologists were settled into their seats on a C-97 Stratofighter. This particular Strato was outfitted for passenger transport by the recently formed United States Air Force. One of the men pulled a flask from his coat with a sigh. It was going to be a long day. Refuel in London, then over the Atlantic, a quick stop at Andrews in Maryland, and then finally land at Holloman Airfield in New Mexico. He joked with his partner that his flask would also need refueling along the way. The other man opened the dusty shoebox on his lap and stared at the Sumerian cylinder seals, puzzled. They didn't look like anything important. They reminded him of metal toilet paper rolls. The engravings were just the typical ancient stuff. Men holding staffs, people sitting in chairs. There were pictures of animals, maybe oxen, and a bunch of symbols he didn't recognize. He showed the open box to his partner, who had just taken a long belt from his flask. Both men shrugged. They had no idea what they were looking at. Why would they? They weren't archaeologists.
So yeah, guys, I am not normally a person who's like, okay, let's talk about this ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. But if anything has been shown to us the last few weeks, it's that nothing is too far gone out of the realm of possibility. So I'm just going to start saying, what if everything was true that we've ever heard? except for the things that our government says. What if all of the conspiracies were true, or that there was some truth to them, you know? So now I'm very interested in this. If these guys have time travel and they haven't told us, and they've been like the ones in all the ships and stuff, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Hitler was fascinated with the occult and ancient relics. He believed these.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like, the Nancys very much took this stuff very seriously. Like, so seriously. So I think that until we prove them wrong, we should just like also take it seriously, because I'm sick of everything being hidden in, out in public. And they're just like rubbing everything in our face. They're like, they'll never put this together. They're too dumb. But we're not, guys. We're pretty smart. We're all pretty smart. We just need to learn to go with our guts.
These relics were powerful and could be used as tools to conquer Europe and beyond. Nazi archaeologists searched for the Ark of the Covenant. The box.
It's literally frickin', what's it called? What's his name? Indiana Jones. Literally.
Of the Ten Commandments. According to scripture, the Ark was a powerful weapon and could level entire armies. In 1940, Heinrich Himmler personally led a mission to find the Holy Grail. The Grail was the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper. It said that the Grail has the power to provide eternal youth. Hitler was fascinated with the Spear of Destiny. This was used by Roman legionary Gaius Cassius Longinus to pierce the side of Christ at the crucifixion. There are German archaeological sites all over the Middle East. Hundreds of people were searching for these artifacts. Now, as far as we know, none of them were found. But in the late 1930s, ancient Sumerian cylinder seals were discovered.
The toilet paper rolls with the pictures?
Yeah, a few of these seals were not Sumerian at all. They were much older. They were given as gifts to the Sumerians by their ancestors.
You mean?
Yes.
Annunaki?
Correct.
Yahtzee?
The Annunaki
Yahtzee. Interesting.
arrived on Earth 500,000 years ago, seeking gold to repair their planet's atmosphere.
Look, guys, I mean, I think that saying that we all came from the Big Bang is just as nuts as saying that our ancestors destroyed their former planet and sent people here to try and save themselves because they couldn't get their act together while they still had a planet. I could totally see that. I could totally see us being like the aliens, truly. So, whatever. Everything sounds insane when you think about it. It's crazy that we're here. We're literally like consciousness driving meat vehicles. That is nuts to me. That doesn't make sense. So, whatever. The Anunnaki makes just as much sense as me driving a meat machine with my thoughts.
They genetically engineered primitive humans to mine the gold. About 12,000 years ago, there was a global cataclysm, some kind of event.
You're telling me that a bunch of rich, like, all-knowing aliens would go somewhere and they wouldn't be like, hey, we're gods. You should do a bunch of work for us for free. Brother. Capitalism is in all... Capitalism is throughout the universe at this point, right? We exported it. That's our best export. We showed the universe how to do capitalism, guys.
And melted the polar ice caps and caused a great flood. This was either an asteroid impact, flood caused sea levels to rise 400 feet and change the face of the Earth. Millions of square miles of land were submerged. Cities were destroyed. The entire human race was almost wiped out. You can see this flood myth depicted in every ancient culture.
Yeah, guys, I think that there's, like, truth in most of the myths and stuff that we hear. Like, I agree with this. I think that there was probably, like, an ancient event that caused the polar ice caps and stuff to melt, and everyone thought it was a flood sent by God. Or maybe it was freaking aliens. Maybe they were doing what I think maybe the Mormons and stuff are doing now, where they're just like, there's got to be pyramids at Antarctica. What's the fastest way we can melt all this ice? I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing. But anyway, I could see an alien race coming here and being like, screw this planet, screw these stupid little worms on here. Let's melt it and let's get that cool pyramid in Antarctica working. It probably like mines gold for them.
It usually ends with a godlike figure emerging from the sea or from the sky to help mankind restart civilization. The Anunnaki gave the Sumerians instructions to escape extinction. These instructions are carved on the cylinder seals. When rolled in the proper sequence, the cylinders outlined a procedure to access naturally occurring wormholes. Now, these are portals, sometimes called stargates, that allow you to move to various points in
Guys, there's a movie and a whole bunch of TV shows called Stargate. Like, we know that the military is 100% embedded into Hollywood, right? So I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility to be like, well, the only way that we're ever going to get them on board with this is if we start dropping little nuggets. We'll call a show Stargate, and then they'll have that idea in their head, Like, we keep hearing, like, there's always something in a movie, and then we're like, oh, yeah, they did that in real life. Like, so I don't know. Let's just ask questions.
Space instantly, and there were about 50 of them all over the world. And since the cylinders were found to be alien, they were transferred to a group called Majestic 12. Majestic 12 was established in 1947 to take charge of the technical, biological, and all aspects of crashed UFOs. MJ-12 soon learned that UFO technology was compatible with the information on the Sumerian cylinders. By combining the ancient Stargate instructions with alien technology, MJ-12 was able to build a machine. But the machine was more powerful than anyone could imagine. It was powerful enough to destroy the planet. And in 2012, it did.
Okay, guys, please stay with me. I know this stuff is nutty. I know it's bananas, but let's just keep watching. Okay, so they get all these ancient things, right? And then they start a top secret project called Looking Glass. And they have a bunch of other secret projects within it. Like Area 51 is a project within this, right? So that guy, Bob Lazar, he is saying that he was part of these projects, okay? So this is a random person saying, hey, I was a part of that thing, okay? So let's just think about it.
Project Galileo was on this floor. That dealt with propulsion systems from alien aircraft. Level 4 was also home to Project Sidekick, an alien weapons program. On level 4, Dan saw a small plastic statue hanging above a door. It was a statue of the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. The rabbit was wearing a red vest and holding a pocket watch. And if you follow the White Rabbit through that door, just like Alice, you step through the looking glass and into another world.
This sounds exactly what these nerds would do. And I mean that in the worst way. I love dorks. I love my normal nerds, but these guys are the worst kind. They're the bad nerds. The demon nerds.
Inside the project looking...
The ones who watch sci-fi movies halfway through and they go, yup, I want to do this. And they don't watch the end.
glass lab was a machine. The exterior of the device was a circular ring about 5 feet tall and 10 feet wide.
This looks exactly like the thing from Contact. Just saying. Again.
It's made of a dark gray metal alloy with a smooth finish. This ring forms the outer shell. Inside the circular outer ring is a core made of several spinning rings.
Literally Contact.
Think of the object in the movie Contact. It looked just like that, just on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
These spinning rings were lined with powerful electromagnets. These created fluctuating electromagnetic fields around the center chamber. At the heart of the machine was a rotating metal barrel lined with quartz crystals. This central barrel is suspended inside the spinning rings using gyroscopes and a gimbal mechanism. And inside the barrel is a chair for the operator.
Yeah, to do what?
Well, a few things. It really depends on the operator.
Yeah, I don't follow.
Well, over time, as the technology became more understood, the machines could be adjusted to do various things to warp space-time. Looking glass technology was used during the Philadelphia experiment. That project failed, but later the Montauk project was launched. And researchers learned that if
Stranger Things. That's Stranger Things. That's what Stranger Things is based on.
a person with certain mental abilities was integrated with the technology, it could be controlled. Operators learned to see any place on Earth. You've heard this called remote viewing. All the operator would have to do is think of a place, and that place could be seen. Now, this was useful for intelligence gathering, but it was extremely helpful in locating more ancient Sumerian cylinders. As more cylinder seals were discovered, they added more capabilities to the machines.
Guys, I know, it's crazy. Just stick with me. Come on. It's just for fun. We're having fun. That's all we're doing. We're just having fun. It's Sunday. What else you got to do?
Knew there were more cylinders out there, but the political climate was making them harder to acquire. Remember, the cylinder seals are Sumerian. Sumer is now Iraq, but the United States still found ways to access the artifacts.
Just 2 hours ago, Allied air forces began an attack on military targets in Iraq and Kuwait. These attacks continue as I speak. Ground forces are not engaged. I'm hopeful that this fighting will not go on for long, and that casualties will be held to an absolute minimum. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations.
What was the scoreboard at the end of that? 1 million Iraqis? Was that held to a minimum? He's like, I gotta get these cuneiform tablets. I have to.
A new world order.
Oh, come on, the U.S. started a war to steal...
Oh, brother. Yeah, so, and we all know what H.W. Bush was all about, right? And that was the progression of his oil and slave trading family. He wants his family to conquer the entire earth, I think. And guys, I know you're sitting here thinking, you're going, Cat Dad, what are you talking about? We did not do the Iraq war to get a bunch of gold tablets so that we could do time travel. And I say, I agree with you. But what's up with this?
Oh, come on, the U.S. started a war to steal old museum stuff.
No, the U.S. military wouldn't be so blatant and obvious.
For 3 days in April 2003, looters rampaged in the storerooms and galleries of Iraq's National Museum.
At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people,
and to defend the world from grave danger.
making off with some 15,000 priceless objects.
These are opening stages of what will be a broad and concerted campaign.
Many dated back thousands of years to the great civilizations of Babylon and Mesopotamia.
A few years later, cylinders were found in Libya.
Good morning, and we are interrupting Good Morning America here on the East Coast, your regular program on the West Coast, because we have learned reports from Libya that Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya for more than 40 years, has been killed by rebel forces.
Back on Alice's floor in the S4 building, technology from crashed UFOs was found to be compatible with the Looking Glass devices. Using this advanced technology, the Looking Glass operator could do more than see any place on Earth. The operator could see any time on Earth, the past, present, and the future. And if the operator was really talented, not only could he see the future, he could change it.
Okay, so the military has a thing that is allowing them to see into the future, the past, and also possibly change the future and the past. It literally sounds like Minority Report. Like, they said that there's some people that they can, like, tie into this machine, essentially, and there are good candidates who have better control over it. So that's why they use all of us as human experiments, and they don't think of us as people at all, is because they're looking for their new pilot to get their frickin', their time travel to work. Losers. So the story here is that we were basically gifted this weapon from ourselves in the future. Like, essentially these aliens or whatever are supposedly offshoots of the human race and, like, in the future. So, like, we've, evolved or whatever.
An illness that was devastating the population. His crew was one of many sent back in time to Earth to try to find a cure. The P-52 aliens are somewhat genetically compatible with humans. In their timeline, they're an offshoot of Homo sapiens. Kaela was eventually allowed to go home, but he spent years at Area 51. He helped save humanity from destruction in 2012. But MJ-12 didn't realize that
Remember all the 2012, the world's gonna end things? What if we diverted that apocalypse?
2012 apocalyptic event wasn't an accident. It was supposed to happen. It was engineered to happen.
Engineered by you.
Another race of future humans.
Eek.
The Stargate technology on the Sumerian cylinders is said to be a gift to humanity, but it's not a gift, it's a weapon. And on a different timeline, it destroyed us. There's a timeline.
This sounds like Arrival. Sounds like a mistranslation. I can't imagine anyone would ever travel across the galaxy to give their past selves something and it be a weapon. It sounds like military people want it to be a weapon. It sounds like, though, that it would be like a gift to humanity.
Where on December 21st, 2012, a disaster took place. There was a massive geophysical pole shift of almost 5 degrees. The shift was caused by the Earth's upper mantle reacting to a massive explosion of energy from the sun. This shift caused a chain reaction in the Earth's tectonic plates. This global cataclysm killed 2/3 of the world's population and led to the extinction of many species. The surface of the Earth was in ruin. The volcanic ash had poisoned the atmosphere and blocked sunlight for years. The entire food chain collapsed. But humans didn't go extinct. The survivors went underground and rebuilt civilization. Over thousands of years, our ability to manipulate time and space grew more and more powerful. We could alter our DNA in real time. We can manipulate our physical form. The form that was most beneficial for surviving underground was a smaller, thinner body. Our brains grew larger, so did our skulls. Large, dark eyes helped us see in the darkness. We became what are described as the Greys. The Greys we see now aren't aliens. They're us, 45,000 years in the future. Majestic 12 calls them P-45s.
This is literally what Raised by Wolves was too, I'm pretty sure. It was like an Ouroboros of them jumping from different planets that they keep ruining, I think. But I could see this. I mean, why not have a little fun, right?
P-45s, future humans, were able to unlock a lot of potential from the human brain. They learned telepathic communication and how to
I think that pretty much anything might be possible in some way, shape, or form, right? This universe is insane. It's nutty. It's crazy. I truly think it's baffling that, we are alive. And then if you do things like play music and stuff, that there are other things out there. There's vibes. There's energy of some sort. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's measurable. I don't know what it is. But there are things that are operating on spectrums that we don't really pay attention to. Probably because, it's like visible light. There's a lot more visible light than we can see. We can only just tap into a little bit of it, but the spectrum of it is, it's massive. It's probably infinite or something. And if you had the right receiver, you could probably see everything, so who's to say that there isn't something nutty like this? I don't think we absolutely have not tapped into our full potential whatsoever. We spend so much of our time, especially the last few millennia, just feeding into the greed and whatever, of the human species. But what if we fed into the love and the like communal aspects and stuff. Like, who knows? We might literally be able to figure out how to talk to each other without even speaking. Like, dude, there's weirder stuff. Like, bats can move around with echolocation. Like, it's not that crazy. You know?
Future. Majestic 12 calls them P45s. P45s, future humans, were able to unlock a lot of potential from the human brain. They learned telepathic communication and how to manipulate space and time with thought. But this evolution had a downside. Future humans lost their humanity. They became emotionless and cold. They became selfish drones, interested only in serving their own needs. People who've been abducted.
Bro, this is Dune. Like, all sci-fi is real, I'm pretty sure. It's us just, like, tapping into our future selves or whatever. Yeah, this is like when Maud Deeb starts doing the spice and stuff, he, like, becomes, what's it called? When, disassociates. He disassociates and he, like, you know, his family and stuff doesn't mean as much to him anymore because he can see everything. So, yeah, this probably isn't a great thing, especially being an underground race that used to see the sun and stuff. I bet they're really pissed. This seems to be about where we're headed, though. Like, if we keep just feeding into the capitalism, we're going to be a bunch of brutal demons in about a couple hundred years. If those are the things that we're going to reward is being a greedy, selfish person, yeah, our race is doomed and we're going to be monsters in a few hundred years. And I could totally see us crawling into the frickin' earth and just being awful. Yeah.
By Greys describe them exactly like this, uncaring and almost robotic. They're experimenting on humans to improve their own future. The experiments focus on human DNA analysis and how that can be spliced with P45 DNA or even other animals' DNA in order to improve their own genetic future.
They sound like a bunch of Nancys. Maybe a bunch of their ancestors are Nancys. Seems to be like they're the ones who are saving themselves right now, and they did after World War II, you know, so I could totally see them destroying the entire Earth just to save themselves.
But here's where it gets scary. The P45 Greys wanted that cataclysm
That stuff wasn't scary before?
to happen in 2012. They still want it. They need it to happen so they can come into existence.
Yeah, but it didn't happen.
No.
Dude, that makes everything make sense. Now with the zombies, you know, like I think the biggest hurdle for all of us was figuring out that they are depraved and they're not like us. Like, they don't care about people the same way that we do.
It didn't. Kaela, the P-52 alien, had the Looking Glass machines turned off for a few years.
Why?
Well, it was using this technology that created the disaster in 2012. The artificial wormholes were disrupting the magnetic energy of the sun.
So we're safe now, right?
Oh no, we're not safe. We're not safe at all.
So what the frick, are there any survivors or any people who've seen this thing? What is it? What are they doing?
We're going to start with a man named Bob Lazar. Now, Bob Lazar first became a whistleblower in 1988, where he came out on the news, actually, and said that he had been a worker at not just Area 51, but a base named S4, which was an underground base near Area 51. And here is a testimony of his from 1989, just 1 year later, about where he mentions Project Looking Glass. Now, he didn't have direct experience with that project, but he had seen briefing documents on it, so that's what he mentions here.
Could you briefly describe Project Looking Glass and Project Sidekick for us?
Project Sidekick was another project going on with Galileo. Galileo was the project that I was involved in. Sidekick dealt with any of the weapon potential of the craft, whether or not the craft had a weapon in it, or could it be used as a weapon, but it had something to do with some sort of particle beam configuration where the gravity generator can be used as a lens to focus a weapon of some sort.
And Project Looking Glass?
Project Looking Glass dealt with the distortion, the fact that there's a time distortion, essentially looking back in time, and by that I do not mean looking back years ago to see the wagon train days. They're looking for distortions that are milliseconds in time, and what that was used for, I don't know, but that was just observing the time distortion, time dilation phenomena of the craft in operation.
Yeah, Bob Lazar's story stayed pretty solid the whole time. I don't know. I tend to believe people when they say stuff that's nuts because a lot of times it's not beneficial for them to say the thing that they're saying.
Something about his credibility. So here's that clip.
Again, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems. There were different projects. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time, and how that can be used, as a, it was part of a weapon program.
How were you informed in this?
These, again, were just the small briefings that I read.
Now we're going to go on to a different whistleblower. His name is Dan Burish.
I'm a microbiologist. A retired one now, but continuing somewhat the practice involved in a very unusual project called Lotus. I am a 20-year retiree from Majestic, first having been brought in 1986 under the auspices of the Committee of the Majority and specifically working for the Majestic 12 assigned to Project Aquarius.
Okay, so this looking glass technology comes from cylinder seals.
Originally, yes.
How?
Originally, it was a series of instructions for accessing the wormholes, which naturally pass in the hyperspace in which we find ourselves. And from there, they worked on the technology. They built the equipment from the instructions. After building the equipment from the instructions, they began to tweak it and find different things out about it. One of the things that they found is that they could actually use it as a peering portal, like a peering glass, if you will, to see different aspects of not only the future but the past.
Are these Sumerian?
I would say that they slightly predate the Sumerian time frame, but that some of the information which came down from cylinder seals that slightly predated the Sumerian time frame were then recopied in the Sumerian seals as well. And those cylinder seals, oh yes, and those cylinder seals, to the best of my knowledge, have all been obtained.
From Iraq?
Some of them from Iraq, yes.
Some of them from Egypt?
Some of them from Egypt, some of them from other countries where they were being stored.
And
I really don't want to get my country into too many problems here.
And you've got, go ahead. For a second.
Bro, he's like protecting this country, and they are probably literally throwing him to the wolves like, he's nuts! He's like, I gotta protect my country, bro. Oh my god, the brainwashing. These people think that they're like doing, they're patriots. And look, he's like terrified of talking about this. I don't know. I don't think that people actively seek out putting strife into their life.
There that the initial plans for the Project Looking Glass came from Sumerian or Mesopotamian cylinder seals that had been found by various governments, and then equipment put together based on those plans. And now here's another clip where he's explaining a little bit about the location of the stargates or portals, as he calls them, related to Project Looking Glass and what has happened to them over the time.
Well, we had Looking Glass technology and portal, actual Stargate technology in Iraq as late as the start of 2003. And a lot of countries didn't want us to enter Iraq. We did, didn't we?
Right. But how is it that, in other words, it sounds like...
just handed his two over. We just told him that we were going to make him rich beyond avarice. And he was a little smarter than Saddam, that's all. And so what he did is he handed them over and says, oh, please come into my country. He says, look at my equipment to make sure that I'm not making any weapons of mass destruction. Meanwhile, out the back door goes the two that Saddam actually had transferred over to him.
Cylinders.
Equipment. Stargate. Activating technology. For them to experiment with. They were experimenting.
But if the Looking Glass technology is the same thing, is access as a wormhole. The technology accesses a wormhole. Yes. It also accesses stargates.
Well, that's essentially the same thing. I've been using the term Stargate technology as being a machine that accesses a wormhole by spreading out the energy, the strange matter, or whatever it is, and I'm not a physicist, that spreads it out in a compatible way to either communicate through it or passage of information. And that includes also...
But it occurs naturally. Stargates occur naturally.
Indeed, they do.
One more clip from Dan Burish. He's going to talk about some of the things they saw as they started using Project Looking Glass and using it for trying to predict future outcomes. So let's take a look at that.
The numbers that we received before the Looking Glass was shut down, dismantled, was that there would be a 19% probability with an 85% confidence that the disaster would occur, that there would be a transition from timeline 1 to timeline 2. But that then means that there's an 81% chance that it won't. And so the individuals who want to carry the negative, I'm convinced that it's going to occur, are not presenting the facts. The facts are, this is the material that we have available that we know.
So what you're saying is the Illuminati, to get back to that thread,
yes,
is basically the side that believes that the transition is going to occur from one timeline to the other.
Not only do they believe that it will occur, they want to provoke it.
But how does it benefit them to believe?
All right, so that shows you a little bit, and I realize there...
Brother, this feels like it's all connected. This feels like we're talking about the same people. This feels like, if you replace words like Illuminati and whatever, with like the military-industrial complex or the like elites, I don't know. I think they want us to think a lot of stuff is too nuts. And they think that our feeble little brains can't handle it. But I don't know. We can handle a lot. We deal with a new domestic T-word incident every year. And they do that to us to control us. And we're still here. So we're not that feeble-minded. We're not that dumb.
I really expound on this timeline idea and the things they saw about a catastrophic future versus a awakening or enlightenment. That's coming, but no, it's not.
So these guys think that they have a weapon that allows them to see the past and the future, right? And we know that the people in charge are bad. So what are they going to want to do, right? They're going to want to look into the future and make a world where we're all slaves to them, right? That's what they want. So that's their like happy utopia future that they want, right? But then they keep talking about an awakening.
So now moving on to the third whistleblower. First, we're going to learn just a little bit about Bill Wood, who he says he is, so you at least see that.
Basically, my military career was such that I was in the United States Navy from June of 1991 until June of 2001. In that time, I served in a special unit called SEAL Team 9. We were trained primarily to use us as an asset to control and handle Tomahawk missiles, cruise missiles, that were used inside the Persian Gulf region in the Middle East throughout the time frame of 1992 to 2000, to my knowledge. Shortly after I began doing that, I was contacted by a group of people that were also doing the exact same thing and were much more aware of who I was and what my experience in the military was on a top secret level. I was very surprised by that. But I learned very quickly that there's people out there with a huge amount of information that are fighting for the good guys.
Okay, so in essence, you were contacted by a group of what we call white hats.
White hats.
The good guys.
I call them oath keepers. But essentially, they're the patriots that our government would classify as terrorists.
Okay. But they are ex-military by and large, and some of them are still in the military.
I would assume a large number are still in the military or the government in the FBI, Secret Service, CIA, any alphabet agency. There's got to be a percentage of people that are seeing the day-to-day and going, this is wrong, we got to do something. One of the caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass, and more specifically the 2012 problem with those projects. I guess popular opinion of what's out there right now is that the project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. I've heard it described a number of ways, but to my knowledge, the problem is that the timelines converge on that point in time. And when you know enough about the Stargate projects and the Looking Glass project to know that how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time. But once you get your brain wrapped around this subject, you find out that at the end of 2012, in an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make. And that's important to the people that had access to Looking Glass because they would use Looking Glass knowing the choices that they would make and the future would pop up. The big mistake was coming up with the possibility of future. And when we started using a computer to say, well, if we make this choice, it's 79% possible that this scenario happens and 23% are possible or whatever, I'm using round numbers, that this scenario would happen. The understanding at the time was that was realistic. However, if you go down the road further and free will continues to exercise itself on this game, that 79% possibility sometimes changes very, very fast. But if you look at the situation in a point of time, it seems very realistic that that's the greatest possibility. What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the Looking Glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret. It well coincides with December 21st, 2012.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic.
What would send the elites into a blind panic? I feel like it's something like us all becoming class conscious. Bro, what would scare them so much?
The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game. And
For them? Dude, is the end of the world all of us just figuring out that the elites have been behind all this shit for the last few thousand years and all of us finally doing something about it? Is this the end of the world they've been talking about? Is us becoming conscious and finally stopping putting up with all this BS? Bro, I'm pumped for Project Looking Glass now.
nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
So I'm just going to let it continue here. He continues talking about the contracting.
Yeah, manipulated, because they manipulate us. They want us to stay under control. Dude, I hope this is what it is. What else would scare the elites? The only thing they're scared of is not being in power, and they've never had that. So the only thing that could possibly do that is us becoming awakening.
They cannot go beyond a certain point.
At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them, this is what's going to happen over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is, how do we fix it?
Why? What is this that's going to happen?
The inevitable contraction of the timelines.
But what does that mean for this reality? Do you know that?
I don't know that. What I do know is that I was called in and asked to solve this problem, this timeline contraction problem. And I eventually did my due diligence and did all the investigating and basically only had one piece of information, and that was reinforcement. The computer's right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable thing that you guys won't.
Class consciousness. Let's go. Bro, see, that's the thing. I think that you could probably look at like the future probabilities of like what's going to happen and stuff, but this is the same exact thing as Rehoboam. This is from Westworld. This is you can make a probability of what is going to happen to a certain extent, but you have to factor in you can't factor in the outsiders, the outcasts. You know, I forget what they call the anomalies. They call them, I think, in Westworld. You know, the people who don't go along with the program. Us. We are the anomalies, you know. They can't solve for us because a computer can only think what has been thought before. And the problem with us is we make up some creative ideas sometimes, you know. So it can't solve for us. So I bet that is what it is. They're like, at a certain point, they won't be able to lie to us anymore, and we're going to know the truth. Is that what the flattening of these timelines is? Is that we all then know our real history and we know what life actually is, and that we aren't meant to be here to be like on a penal colony for the elites that run the world? Like our mission in life is not to do brutal work for our oppressor. You know, that's not what it is. I'm willing to bet. I'm willing to bet that the universe isn't here just so that the few elites can abuse us and hoard everything. I'm just saying. I feel like the laws of the universe doesn't really work like that.
There is an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen.
But they don't.
However, they don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they try to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect.
Dude,
now,
this is exactly what we're talking about. This is everything. This is the blue beam. This is everything, bro. This is what we're saying. They're gonna like try and do some big fake thing, but all of us know the truth. We're like, we see you, Paul. We see you, Paul Weissopel. We know what's going on, man. Dude, this is crazy. I kind of believe in this stuff now. Like, I do feel the vibes are coming. There's an energy, you know? We're all just a bunch of little particles vibrating, right? We're music. And something's coming, and the elites know, bro, and they're doing everything they can to stop it. Dude, that is why they started, bro, that must be why they started all these like domestic teas, right? It's because they're like terrified of us becoming conscious. And so they say, okay, well, what if we do this? What if we crash a plane into a building? And they're like, okay, yeah, that'll push it off for another 20 years. This is what they keep doing. They keep saying, okay, we'll do another thing and push it off another 10 years. Bro, I don't know, man. You guys tell me. This is nutty.
It's much, much easier for me to explain today what that process is as opposed to back then. But if I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all resolves down to us all learning the truth.
The truth. And that's what we want, babe. That's what we're here for. We're here for the truth. Bro, this is what they're talking about. They know that we're going to find out. And they have a stupid little computer that tells them, yep, they're going to find out. And they keep saying, what if we do this? What if we do this? And they keeps going, nope, they're going to find out. Dude, that is awesome. That does sound like something that we would make and send back from the future to taunt them. Dude, that's hilarious. That's something I would do.
And becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keep us from knowing massive volume of information that we should otherwise possess.
Bro, this is everything. It's all of it. 2024, year of truth.
This for a minute, because what he said is key, and when I come full circle on this thing at the end of this video, I'm going to talk about it more, but just note that he said that this event that all of history is culminating towards, he even calls it an awakening. And if you are familiar with or have followed at all the Q phenomenon, the QAnon posts on, first 4chan, then now 8chan, then you may be aware of this term.
Yes, dude, and then they made the Q movement to co-opt it, because we know that like the way that they deflect us from knowing the truth is that they go out for us and they go, oh, if anyone ever says they see Timothy McVeigh alive, they're crazy. They're conspiracy theorists, right? This is what they always do. So with Q, they're trying to, like, the whole thing is like, oh, the people are going to, they probably read it as like, oh, the people are going to have a new Messiah. The new Messiah, I'm telling you right now, is going to be truth. It's going to be real people and the truth. That's the Messiah. But they're too thick, and they think that everything's either a weapon or a like they can't see the possibility of something not being a weapon. They use every tool as a hammer. This is their playbook. But yeah, so they're like, okay, they want truth. We'll give them a false prophet of truth, Q. It doesn't matter, though. You guys don't understand. Listen to this man, They keep saying that we're going to do something to change their mind, and the thing keeps saying that the timelines are all flattening into one timeline. There's nothing you can do, elites. You're cooked. The robots are even telling you. The alien tech is telling you that you're cooked. You are cooked, bro. I'm telling you right now, you're so freaking cooked, and you guys are scared of us. This is the greatest thing in my life, bro.
The Great Awakening, which I myself and many others can contend is occurring right now,
And just remember, guys, like, just because people are fear-mongering this Great Awakening, to me, the Great Awakening doesn't sound scary. It sounds great. It sounds awesome. So just remember, people can only try and force you to act a certain way, and the only thing that you have control over is how you act. And that's what they're saying. They keep saying that we do something and then they won't react the way we want to. And that's because we see the bullshit. All of us do. I'm stoked, guys.
In progress and is going to get just huge as this year progresses and as time progresses. But that's what he's talking about. It's and he even said it, he talks about it in a couple ways. He talks in one way as if it's an enlightenment, like a consciousness raising, but he also says that it's just a revealing of the truth, right? It's understanding that there's been a dam of lies built up over the centuries, and this awakening is people coming to the knowledge of the truth, and that nothing can stop it. And that is what the elites saw when they looked in the Project Looking Glass and used the machine to run their probabilities. They saw this and were so afraid they couldn't even believe it. So they couldn't deal with it. So this is what scares them, and this is why, they had been using this project again and again to try to see if there's some way to change that probability, but they couldn't do it. It's not going to change. And
Guys, this is it. This is real. I'm calling it 100%. This is real. They're terrified. We are in the middle of the Great Awakening, my friends. And not really anyone knows it except for us, I think. I'm stoked.
Because that information was of a monumental concern when I was in the military about how to prevent this inevitability. Now, at first I thought it was end of the world. Now I see end of the world as end of their world.
Yes! Bro!
Yeah, note that he said that.
Truly! That's what it is. It's the end of their world. Their house of cards, their house of lies.
You know, that the elites felt like it's the end of the world, but it's really the end of the charade that they've been playing on the people of Earth for centuries. And it's the revealing of truth that has been hidden for my whole lifetime, probably for many.
Dude, there is nothing. This is why I think this is true, right? We've already talked about this. Like, I could totally see what they've been working up to is a giant fake alien invasion false flag. I mean, bro, they did 9/11. They did Pulse. They did OKC. They've done so many. They've done the Boston one. They've done everything, right? They keep doing these. These are working up towards something. They're trying to get us into WW3, and none of us are down for that. So they're going to have to do a big one. They've already said that Yemen's going to cut the internet, and China's going to destroy the infrastructure in all of our cities. Meanwhile, NYPD helicopters are the ones circling and LiDARing all of our cities and stuff, you know? So this is all them moving toward their last false flag, and it's not going to work. What have we said, dude? If aliens came, I would look outside and I would go, do I have to go to work tomorrow? I don't care. Can I just play PlayStation tonight? Like, none of us are going to care. And that's what they're scared of. This is what they've been trying to control for so long. This is how they control us, right? MK Ultra, the trauma lets you control people. So they keep saying, okay, we got to control these people. They're out of control. They're going to take away all of our toys. All the rich people are saying that. But, dude, this is kind of amazing. This is giving me, I'm stoked about this, and everyone should be. These people are scared. They're scared of something. They know something's coming. And instead of just being good and normal people and being like, hey, we treated you wrong, give us another chance, they're just still doing the same BS and lying. That's all they know how to do.
Any attempts to try to go away from this one inevitable conclusion, which I again see as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently.
Dude, honestly, it could be as crazy as just not having a master for the rest of our lives. Like, that is something that they would say is the end of the world and isn't, you know? Like, this whole end of the world thing is them losing control. That's it. So when they want us to lose our minds and go chaos mode, bananas mode, what are we going to tell them? We're going to say, no, I love my brother. I love my brother. I love my sisters. I love my community. But I do not like my boss. That's what we're going to say. I don't like my boss. I don't like CEOs. I don't like millionaires. I don't like billionaires. Those are the only people I don't like. So, dude, they're terrified.
But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion.
Let's go.
We won't have the choice to believe that 9/11 happened because of a bunch of terrorists, because we'll know exactly what's happened.
What? That the LDS Church and Mossad did it as a collab? Brother just said it. I mean, I can read between the lines, you know. I am telepathic.
Basically, what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent, and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point...
This is us. We're the opponent. And we have nothing left to lose. Zero.
Point, the loser can only prolong the game. The game, both players know the game is over.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before
we know the game is over.
He does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. we, as a race, if we could understand that the game is over, that based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake.
And we don't make mistakes.
But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game. And so at this
we
point,
do know what has to be done.
Would be
We just have to get everyone down for it.
all but impossible.
It's not even that hard. It's literally just everyone not doing anything. Because that is, dude, this is all free will. This is about free will. I'm calling it. We don't have free will currently. We think we do, but we don't. Stay home from work. Tell me if you got free will. Like, your life's over. So, maybe the future, the end of the world, is all of us just being able to think and do what we want. That's horrifying to the elites. I can tell you that. All of us, like, having free time to think and make art together and build community and turn this place back into a Garden of Eden instead of, like, the hellish landscape that we've cultivated.
To me, it sounds just like God and Satan. And this is...
Okay, dudes, I'm sorry. This is the last bit. This has been nutty for me. I hope you guys like it. I'm sorry, it's an hour, but this is our last clip we're going to watch for this part. But this is Lost. It's good versus evil. It's light versus dark. It's us versus them. It's money versus no money. This is it. It's everything. It's all the myths, all the legends, all happening right now. Now is like the most historical, most pivotal time, and no one even knows it.
I was entrusted in getting it down to two possibilities. And I've heard both of those possibilities talked about in massive proportions, the good and the bad.
Okay, do you want to talk, so can you in one sentence say what the good was and the bad was, or are you able to do that?
To most easily put it to people,
I suppose.
One scenario is what most people would understand to be ascension, or an evolution of consciousness, that brings us...
And most people are going to take that as religion, right? But we know that that isn't the only way that you can take that, right? I think that I don't believe in, like, religion or, like, you know, Jesus in particular and stuff, but there's definitely vibrations. There's something going on out there, but most people are going to take this as like God coming back. But the way I'm taking it is that we're going to realize that we're all the same, and then we're all going to have a future to fight for and, you know, help each other. And we're going to ascend past this, like, primitive thinking of me. Oh, it's just for me. Maybe start thinking communally and stuff. To me, that is ascension. Nothing to do with religion, you know? So you always got to make sure that whatever you're scared of, they're putting the fear in you, the way that they talk and the way that they're interpreting things. But everything doesn't have to be interpreted the way that they interpret it, you know? Because most of them are a bunch of dummies. Most of them have no clue what they're talking about.
Out of the cocoon and turns us into a butterfly. Timeline 2 is some kind of major global catastrophe that drives most of us underground and leaves a few of us on top to fend for ourselves.
The bunkers. Yep. So yeah, here's our two possibilities, and they both see them as the end. Actually, they don't see the second possibility as the end of the world. They see the first possibility of us getting rid of them and realizing we don't need them. They think that's the end of the world, and then they say, but the other possibility is that we could do thermonuclear war, destroy the entire Earth, and we can move underground, and we can become the Greys. Dude. Okay, timeline, time travel's real, confirmed. Moving on. No, this is it, guys. This is the battle. This is the battle of good for evil. This is the battle where Gandalf turns into Gandalf the White. Everyone just has to be a decent person. That's it. You don't have to... Their scenario for thermonuclear war involves them pressing the button and getting rid of all of us. So we just need to make sure that they don't do that, you know? You guys are really not gonna, you're gonna destroy the entire earth before you just give up your power? You guys don't deserve to be in power then. Okay, and here's our last clip that perfectly summates exactly what's going on.
Can you explain why they have been hedging their bets to such a degree on the negative?
It's very simple. They're insane. And beyond insane, they have literally deluded themselves into believing that they can somehow manage to get away with what they're trying to get away with. There is a distinct lack of reality in that thinking.
And that's exactly what the elites of the world are, is deluded.
Deluded.
And so that is the conclusion of Bill.
Schizomania. That's what they are. Brother. Dude, this has given me a lot of hope. They're so scared. We can see that they're scared. We know they're scared. And, you know, Jeff Bezos, like, building his clock, his giant clock in the earth, obviously that's his bunker. So we gotta go see what's down there. All right, we're gonna Naruto run into Jeff Bezos's clock dungeon underground bunker. He's probably the start of the Greys. Like, he's the first Grey. Okay, bye. Guys, we got this. It's over. They lost. Losers. If you guys are gonna nuke the entire Earth so that you don't lose power, you deserve to be Greys. I will never be a Grey. Thank you. It's not worth going underground. No. But you guys can go be cave people. You basically already are, Jeff, Elon, you weird, pale, white Nancys. You guys are see-through. That's how Nancy you are. Anyway, eat the rich. Bye.